live on YouTube, so it's taking about a
It
minute.
says we're live, Rena.
It's still setting it up. It says we're live, but we're not live. Okay,
Oh,
we should be
tricky.
good. Should be good now.
Good
Okay.
morning. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Commissioners for Cook County. We're going to have a discussion and action related to COVID-19 pandemic response. And with that, I would like to read the statutes. We have one member that's going to be on by phone. So I'll read this in regard to the statutes justifying the telephone conference as well as the virtual one, I believe, as well. Number one, by the way, I have done a roll call vote and everyone's here that needs to attend. All commissioners are involved. Number one, it has been determined that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the related peacetime emergency declaration made by Governor Walz in accordance with Minnesota Statutes, Chapter 12. Number two, we have ensured that all members of the body participating in the meeting, wherever their physical location, can hear one another, can hear all discussion and testimony offered at today's meeting. Number three, we have also ensured that members of the public present at the regular meeting location of the body can hear all discussion and testimony and all votes of the members of the body. We have urged the public not to attend this meeting in person because of the COVID-19 pandemic and have ensured that members of the public can view and monitor the meeting remotely in real time by broadcasting the meeting on the Cook County website. Number four, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have determined that it may be unfeasible for County Auditor Brady Powers, County Attorney Molly Hicken, County Administrator Rena Rogers, and member of the Board of Commissioners to be physically present at the Cook County Boardroom at the Cook County Courthouse. Number five, all votes will be conducted by roll call, so each member's vote on each issue will be identified and recorded. And I'm going to stand, and I have a little flag looking at the wall across the thing, so I'd stand, and would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we just sent out a revised agenda, but I would like to bring up a point that there's some of us have been discussing a travel advisory. Are we going to add this to the agenda or bring that forward at another time?
That's up to the board if they want to add that to the agenda.
Okay. I think then we should maybe do a little round roll call on that. I believe that all of you received a draft policy on the travel advisory. We found out in our leadership meeting yesterday that the one that we did pass is now not consistent with the governor's new orders. So I guess I would like your thoughts about whether we should tackle that in this agenda today, and we'll have to try to work out some kind of wording on it, or do we just let it pass or whatever. So, but I guess the question I have for you now is, would you be in favor of having this as an added agenda item to the one that was published? Start with Commissioner Storley. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, can we just do some highlights? We don't have to go through the whole thing, but I think with Memorial Weekend coming up, there's going to be lots of folks probably heading up for a variety of things. So could we just do a summary, the high points about what's happening and what's expected, what's closed and
Rather
what's
not
open?
have a policy. Okay. Is that what I hear you saying?
Summary, right.
Okay. Summary. Okay, Commissioner Mills?
I'm comfortable with the new travel advisory, and apologies for missing the meeting yesterday. It might be helpful just to go over key differences with everybody.
But have it as my question to you now is to have it as an agenda item.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable adding it to the
Okay,
agenda.
very good. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Dukirk?
Can we add it as part of our discussion of the committee of the whole?
That's another thought. Then we wouldn't be taking action until the end of the month.
And I don't know that we need to take action on it. But we can add it to this one. I'm fine either way.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner DeShaw?
It don't matter to me, we can put it on either one.
Okay. Well, then we'll make
My-
that,
Myron, sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. Then can we move the mask discussion as part of this discussion, since that was the committee of the whole discussion? I think the two have to do with each other. With messaging to the public.
I guess I'm open to that as chair. So we would not do that at the committee of the whole. And we could tackle this one.
Yeah.
So let's do another roll call on that, just to see if that's how we'd like to proceed. As part of this, then we would either, from what I'm hearing you say, Commissioner Dukirk, is that we could, this would be another separate discussion because the travel advisory and the mask thing are really not consistent, but they're about the same thing. So you'd want them as separate items, I believe. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, if we're gonna have the travel advisory update and maybe take action during this meeting, I would also like the mask discussion to be part of this meeting.
Okay, very good. Okay. So then let's go around on that one again. And your thoughts on also adding the masks to this discussion. I think there was a reasonable consensus that we would add the travel advisory to this agenda today. So let's take on the mask issue. And I think see if we have some kind of consensus, starting with Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
Okay, Commissioner Dukirk, yes. Commissioner DeShaw,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. And Commissioner Storley,
Yes, we can put them together, yes.
okay. And of course, I'd support that. So then we will have under, we'll go from A, B, continuation of local emergency declaration. C will be, let's pick the travel advisory. And then D will be the mask discussion. So then I would entertain a motion to add those to the agenda.
So moved, Commissioner Dukirk.
Okay, support,
Support Storley.
okay. Roll call vote, Commissioner DeShaw? Commissioner DeShaw, are you in favor?
There you go.
I'm unmuted now, yeah, aye.
Fine, okay. Commissioner Dukirk,
Aye.
Commissioner Mills,
Aye.
Commissioner Storley,
Aye.
Mr. Bersheim's aye, be unanimous, very good. We'll have those 4 items and then we'll also then have administrator update for E. Administrator. Very good. So is there a public comment period that anyone's received as far as, I guess, by email? Or is there anyone there that would want to make a statement in the courthouse?
No, there's no, we have not received any letters and there is no one here to make a statement.
Okay, very good. With that, we'll go then to the Emergency Operations Command Incident Command Team update. And Grace, are you with us? I guess you are. And Mike, are you with us? I guess I should look. Mike, looks like you're mute. Okay.
Yep, I'm here, Myron.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, well, let's, who would like to start, Grace or Mike?
I can get started.
Okay,
So
Go ahead.
the COVID case count as of yesterday, May 18th in Minnesota, since the pandemic began in the state, 16,372 people have tested positive for the virus. And of these, 10,764 no longer need to isolate. 1 week ago, there were 14,732 cases, and 1 month ago, there were 2,909 cases. There are still no lab confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Cook County. We continue to be in the early days of the pandemic, despite Governor Walz's stay-at-home order expiring and being replaced by the Stay Safe Minnesota order. Though we have not yet reached our peak rate of viral infection throughout the state, health systems have increased their preparedness across Minnesota, putting our health systems in a better position to manage the increased number of people who will get sick with COVID as the state turns the dial, businesses start to reopen, and people begin to move around and gather more frequently. The public health strategy for managing the pandemic remains the same. Test, isolate, contact trace, and help close physical contacts of positive cases to quarantine. The state continues to increase its testing capacity toward the goal of 20,000 tests per day. Yesterday, we were up to 6,001 tests. The Minnesota Department of Health continues to recommend testing for all symptomatic people, which we are able to accomplish locally through Sawtooth Mountain Clinic and the lab at North Shore Health. Updates from the EOC this week include, we did receive notice that the EOC will be hosting Elsa Lundy as an AmeriCorps True North Emergency Response Initiative service member over the summer. Elsa will be helping the EOC better understand changes in the community with regards to food access during the pandemic, how local hunger relief services have shifted in response, and on identifying any unmet needs in the community. She will also help with food distribution, delivery, meal preparation, and/or special projects identified by community agencies working on hunger. I began communicating with these local agencies about partnering this past week. Also, last Tuesday, I talked with Mitch Dorr and walked through their plans for graduation. Mitch will be sending me a draft of the communication to graduates' families for review this week prior to distributing the plan to families. Local businesses are working on preparedness planning in collaboration with Jim Boyd in his role as business liaison and leader at the Chamber of Commerce. More materials have become available for technical assistance for businesses through DEED and the Department of Labor and Industry. We continue to have conversations in the EOC about how to ensure that the public does not become complacent with basic public health best practices during the pandemic, covering coughs, staying home when ill, socially distancing, and wearing a cloth face covering in situations when it is difficult to socially distance. The EOC released a media release last week asking for additional donations of cloth face coverings for employees at local businesses. As of last Friday, volunteers have served 2,907 hours with local grocery stores. We've received donations of over 1,600 face coverings and over 100 face shields. The North Shore Healthcare Foundation has received $9,500 in donations for local healthcare partners through the EOC to purchase personal protective equipment. The foundation plans to match up to $20,000 in donations. We are continuing to discuss contact tracing throughout the region with MDH, Sawtooth Mountain Clinic, and Grand Portage Health Services. The conversation is evolving at a rapid pace. Once we have a health educator on board within PHHS, we will likely have this person work on training in as a contact tracer for our regional response efforts. MDH and the U of M updated the modeling that Governor Walz is using to inform the state's response efforts. The new parameters include the role of asymptomatic viral transmission, deaths occurring outside of the hospital, and the percentage of reduction in contacts under different mitigation strategies, as well as the rate of cases that require ventilation. MDH also updated their guidance for summer youth activities, a toolkit for long-term care, and faith-based services. all of which can be found on their website and have been forwarded to local partners. I met yesterday with Anne Baratas from Boreal Corps to discuss youth media initiatives related to COVID, including a social media campaign about why and how to use cloth-based coverings in public, as well as a poster campaign focused on community safety and respect in the context of COVID. Grace Bouchard and Matthew Baxley trained 10 volunteers last week for the community support line, which goes live this week. The EOC plans to put out a media release later in the week to announce the line going live. We also figured out how to live stream events to the hub site, which would make it possible to host press conference type events as needed during the pandemic. And in the past day, we've had 325 hits to the hub site, bringing the total number of hits to the site up to 17,558. That is all I have.
Thank you. So we'll go on roll call for any questions or comments for Grace. And I would like to start off by just thanking you again for all the work you're doing. And I'm glad that we're progressing on the public health educator position to help out in that department, but you've done an excellent job. Commissioner Storley, questions, comments?
No question, just comment. And again, thank you, Grace, for all that you're doing. And especially interested in how the program is going to work with contacts. You know, it's we're lucky that we're one of the few counties without any reported cases. So, but contacts is important too. So thanks for working on that.
Okay, Commissioner DeShaw.
Thanks for the report, Grace. Could you email that out?
Absolutely, I will do that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Dukert,
No questions. Thanks, Grace.
Commissioner Mills.
No questions. Thank you, Grace.
Okay, very good. And then I will turn it over to Mike Keyport, our Emergency Management Operations Director. And thank you, Mike, for all you're doing. And we look forward to your update at this time.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, commissioners, community members. Thanks, Grace, for your always thorough report. As you can tell from Grace's report, the number of meetings between Grace and I wouldn't even want to know the number, but we meet with a lot of people and a lot of groups regionally, state, and that's I find that super important because the information I get on the emergency management side is sometimes different than what Grace gets from a public health side, and differs again from what Kimber from the hospital gets. And then we have the opportunity each day to meet and share that information, and that information dissemination is so very important that it's really helping us move forward by sharing this information. After any disaster, we typically do an after action report, and communication is typically one of the downfalls in any disaster. So I think we're really ahead of the game when it comes to communicating with each other and to our citizens. Our Emergency Operations Center, of course, remains functional. Jim Wienerman continues to maintain the day-to-day operations over there, while working on many other projects within the EOC. He tackled the mass fatality plan with input from Grace and I. Within that, we were looking at temporary morgue options. That's not always a very pleasant subject, but it is a reality, and you know, it's just emergency management in itself. We have to be prepared. We have to make sure we of course think the worst and hope for the best, but there'll be more to come on the temporary morgue site here, probably as early as next week. I see on your agenda you have the extension, or not the extension, the continuation, we'll call it, of the local emergency declaration. I'll just speak to that briefly. That's it. This was such a unique situation that local governments, state governments, and federal governments all were declaring states of emergency in a very quick manner due to the situation as fast moving as this thing started out. But on a local level here, the emergency declaration, I realize it was confusing to the public and may still be. I'll be listening in to see what your discussion is at your meeting this morning. But you know, basically, it does, according to our emergency operations plan, you know, a declaration does permit us as a county to keep our ELC open and take any action that's necessary to protect lives and property within our county. It also allows ELC staff to make purchases without having to bring the board together to make these decisions for us in an emergency situation such as we're in. So it's important that we continue this, in my opinion. Lastly, I think again we are doing very well. I think we're prepared, and we'll continue to keep moving on. I thank you for the time with the board this morning. Thank you.
And thank you, Mike, for all you do and the work that's being done. We are in a very good situation considering the circumstances, and like you said, planning for the worst and hoping and working for the best. Yes. So with that, any questions or comments by roll call for Mike Keyport? Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mike. I don't have any questions. I really appreciate you pointing out the piece about communication and the different perspectives from the different organizations and how critical it is to coordinate all that. So thank you very much for your work and efforts, and I'm happy you're here with us.
Thank you. Commissioner Dukirk?
Hey, Mike, thanks for your work, and bouncing off of Dave and communications, if we could be so bold today, I hate to say, I can almost guarantee that there will be confusion, because we are talking about your declaration and the travel advisory and masks. And so maybe we could be proactive and write the communication for our news media so that it doesn't get confused, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeShaw?
No questions.
Commissioner Storley?
Thank you, Mike, for the explanation of the declaration, which I think is ultimately most important. So thanks for giving us an update on that.
And I think I'd just like to reinforce that too, that the declaration really allows us to have a funding stream and access to federal or state funds as well. And that's very important to have that in place.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Lisa
Go ahead.
Sorty, our public information officer, already has drafted a media release that will go out today. So regarding the local state of emergency.
Right.
So hopefully we'll get ahead of the game a little bit.
Yeah. And so it has gone out, or it'll go out today?
It will go out today, yes.
Okay. So we do need to take, I think, action on it. So I guess I would like to just do another roll call and saying, are you ready for supporting the document that was prepared for us, I believe, by Attorney Hicken? So if you're ready for that, without any additions or corrections to it, I'll do a roll call on that. And Commissioner DeShaw, your thoughts on the travel emergency declaration?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Attorney Hicken. Would it be appropriate to read the declaration? The recital paragraphs outline what considerations the commissioners would take, and this document has only been emailed out. Perhaps it should be read.
Oh, thank you. Sure. Would you like to read it?
I guess I just volunteered myself.
Yes, thank you.
We need an updated number for this resolution, and perhaps Auditor Powers would have access to that. Otherwise, it can be added. The resolution is titled Continuation of Declaration of a State of Emergency. Whereas COVID-19 is a viral respiratory illness caused by a novel coronavirus that has not been found in people before, is highly contagious, is potentially fatal to all those infected, and is especially a fatality risk to older adults and people who have serious chronic medical conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and lung disease. Whereas coronavirus is known to spread rapidly among populations without preventative measures and rapid action by local authorities. Whereas since public health authorities discovered the first positive test result for coronavirus in the state of Minnesota in early March 2020, 16,372 individuals have tested positive for the virus, and over 731 deaths have occurred related to COVID-19 in this state. 105 positive cases and 13 related deaths have been identified in St. Louis County, the nearest major population center to Cook County. Cook County is the only county in northeastern Minnesota which remains without a positive test result, and is one of only 3 counties which remain free of positive tests of Minnesota's 87 counties. And the limited number of testing supplies available in the state has led public health officials to advise that these statistics may be a great underrepresentation of the actual number of individuals infected with the novel coronavirus. Whereas Cook County has a higher than average population of older adults and a high level of movement across its borders related to Cook County's tourism industry and its seasonal population, yet the nearest intensive care unit is 70 to 145 miles away from its population. And whereas the typical busy season for tourism and the migration of seasonal residents is imminent, and preventing the rapid spread of coronavirus and related fatalities among the Cook County population and its visitors requires decisive action by the Cook County Board of Commissioners, its staff, and Cook County public officials. And whereas Cook County has already been required to purchase and will continue to purchase necessary equipment, software, and other technological resources to allow for teleworking and the provision of essential services to its citizens and visitors without increasing the risk of transmission of the coronavirus. And whereas Cook County anticipates being required to expend additional financial resources to prevent the spread of coronavirus and make related communications and provide essential services to individuals in quarantine and isolation as a result of exposure to coronavirus or testing positive for the virus or COVID-19 illness. And whereas on March 17, 2020, at the request of the Cook County Emergency Manager and related to the foregoing circumstances, the Cook County Board of Commissioners declared Cook County in a state of emergency during the COVID-19 outbreak in Cook County of March 2020. And whereas on April 13, 2020, at the request of the Cook County Emergency Manager, the Cook County Board of Commissioners continued the local declaration of a state of emergency, given recommendations at the regional state level that a local declaration could expire after 30 days. And this continuation included a 30-day limit, given that analysis. But subsequent review of state statute leads to the conclusion that a local declaration of emergency may be indefinite until terminated by the local authority. And whereas on May 19, 2020, the Cook County Emergency Manager requested that the Cook County Board of Commissioners make it clear that the local declaration of a state of emergency remains indefinitely until terminated by the county board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that under its authority in Minnesota statutes, section 1229, the Cook County Board of Commissioners hereby indefinitely and without interruption continues the local declaration of a state of emergency, which it first declared March 17, 2020, for conditions resulting from the COVID-19 outbreak of 2020, adopted by the Cook County Board of Commissioners this 19th day of May, 2020.
Good. Thank you. I guess I'll just do a roll call to see if there's any questions or concerns about what was written and read to us. Commissioner DeShaw?
Why are we going with indefinitely versus another 30 days?
Okay, the question, did you hear that, Attorney Hicken?
Yes. It is the commissioner's authority to, I mean, I believe you could limit it to 30 days if you wish, but given the indefinite nature at this point of the crisis, this could be the last action you take until you terminate it. You know, it doesn't have to take up your time again. If conditions significantly improve, then you bring it back on the agenda and you terminate it.
Okay.
You may wish to ask for input from public health and the emergency manager on that point as well.
Any comments there from Grace or Mike?
I'll defer to Mike since this is his area of expertise.
Okay, Mike? Question on the 30 days.
I'm sorry, Myron, I was on the phone. What was the question?
Okay, Commissioner Shaw raised an issue with advisory. It was sort of open-ended right now, and he's asking the question about whether it should be terminated in 30 days as a statement in the advice, the declaration. And Attorney Hicken had commented that it was, we just don't know that far ahead. It can always be subject to change. So sometimes it might be more flexible just to leave it out. I think that's how I interpreted it, at least. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on it by leaving it open and rather than just state 30 days?
When we asked the state about this situation, and the state of Minnesota, the gentleman's name is Joe Newberger. He is actually the operations chief in the State Emergency Operations Center, and he interprets it that the county does have the ability to just leave it open-ended according to the state statute. So that, I mean, it's at your discretion, but it's my understanding that it can be just left open until the disaster ends, as you see fit as a board.
Okay. Okay. We'll go to Commissioner Dukert.
Thank you. I have no problem leaving it open since yesterday was the first day that some of the restrictions were removed, and we have been told that this could be an 18-month process. So I am very comfortable and aware that we have incredible staff that stay on top of these situations and that this will not get lost in the shuffle. And when it needs to be removed, it will be brought to the board's attention, whoever that board may be at the time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mills?
No questions.
Okay. And I think I would support it leaving open. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the emergency declaration for Cook County.
Did we give?
So moved.
Yes, go, excuse me, Attorney Hicken.
Did we skip
you?
over Commissioner Storley?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Commissioner Storley.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I would certainly support the ability to leave it open-ended. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so now I think I heard Commissioner Dukert say a motion. Would you reaffirm your motion, Commissioner Dukert? Yeah, okay, yes. And do we have support or second to that?
There's Commissioner Mills, I'll second.
Okay. So we do a roll call vote on that. Commissioner Storley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mills,
Aye.
Commissioner Dukert,
Aye.
Commissioner DeShaw. I'm sorry, didn't hear yours.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And I'm aye, passes unanimously. Very good, thank you. Then let's go to the travel advisory. Some information was sent out on that, and I believe I've been trying to track down some things here because this has been a moving target. I know that Attorney Hicken, you sent out some comments to a couple of us earlier this morning. You want those comments to be part of the record for our meeting now in response to the draft that was devised?
I'm not sure if a revised version of the draft that Ms. Rogers sent out yesterday has been fully shared. I know
It has been.
It
I
was
sent
sent
it-
out this morning.
Sent it out this morning. And if I could, Mr. Chair, I think the reason, just for everyone that's on here, that we are revisiting this is the travel advisory that we first issued at the end of March is somewhat out of date and not consistent now with the governor's most recent orders. So I think the board has an opportunity to do one of three things. Just let that one ride since it was passed without a sunset date. They could end it, or they could revise the travel advisory to make it more current. So that's really the choice that's in front of the board today. And to help with that discussion, I worked on a draft that is more advisory about what people might find when they get here, similar to some media releases we did last week. So a little context for folks.
So just to review that, and I guess I'm going to add something too. We could leave the other one in place even though it is not consistent with the newest order, correct? I don't understand that.
You could do that. You passed a travel advisory that is just sitting out there right now, and it hasn't been sunsetted. It's just in place. So you could choose to just leave that, not take any action at all. I mean,
Or we could
choice.
end it,
You could end it.
or we could revise it. So we have
Right.
three options. Yes.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Just trying to set a strategy here for some discussion and any decisions. Okay, so let's just do a roll call on leaving it as it was passed. See if we got any kind of consensus on that to speed this up a little bit. Is that okay with everyone? All right. So Commissioner Storley, do you think we should leave the old one in place?
Well, I'm looking over the travel advisory revision, May 19th, which is today. And that brings us up to date to what's happening in the county. And I would say we need to be up to date in all this because it changes quite often and we only meet once a week. So I would be in favor of looking at the revision of May 19th as something to go on.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was hoping to kind of go over the differences more specifically. Definitely think updating is important.
Okay.
And following the current state recommendations
Right.
there.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Dukert.
I think we need to take a look at where we're at in the situation and not keep the old one going.
Okay. Commissioner Duchaw.
Yeah, let's do the revised one.
Okay. Well, I think then what I'm gathering is that we've taken care of the second issue as well, from what I hear. And just ending it is not the answer, but so we're going to go to the revision. Okay, very good. Thank you. So looking at the revised draft that was sent out this morning, can everyone take a look at that? Or should I read it? I guess I'll do that anyway for the public. And this was submitted by Rena Rogers for May 19th, 2020 revision. And then I believe because of our leadership team meeting discussion, Attorney Hicken had made some comments on as well, and I had made some comments, but I think we'll just go ahead with this. I'll ask you again, Attorney Hicken, do you want your comments as part of this discussion? And maybe as part of the round robin, or would you like to make some comments on it now or after I read it?
Maybe after you read it would be better.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure if my comments were incorporated into the version that was shared with the commissioners.
It wasn't, not to my knowledge.
They were not.
Okay.
No, and it wasn't that clear. I'm sorry, early this morning, I was responding and I hadn't received it yet when I wrote my comment. So, okay, I'll go ahead and read it as follows. This is a revision to a travel advisory issued by the Cook County Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, March 24th, 2020, in response to concerns surrounding the spread of the COVID-19. Due to the ongoing nature of the COVID-19 pandemic and the operational changes by individual businesses based on the governor's orders, the Board of Commissioners issues this travel advisory for persons planning to visit Cook County. Number one, due to high community transmission in certain areas of the state and across the nation, the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, consistent with federal guidance and to protect our neighbors, has encouraged Minnesotans to stay close to home and has strongly discouraged them from engaging in unnecessary travel. Number two, those travelers who visit Cook County during the COVID-19 pandemic should be advised pursuant to the governor's orders that all bars and restaurants are closed for sit-down service. Several businesses are open for curbside service only, and some are prohibiting entry into the store, such as most Grand Marais area grocery stores and the Grand Marais Municipal Liquor Store. Another statement under number two is retail businesses are opening with plans to ensure the safety of employees and the public. Access to businesses may be limited and require that individuals wear face coverings. A business can refuse service to individuals ignoring these restrictions. Although, and another third paragraph there is, although many lodging businesses have opened with plans and restrictions, others are choosing to remain closed. All public campgrounds are closed. Visitors should plan accordingly. Number three, Cook County has one of the highest populations of older adults in the state of Minnesota. This population is among those at the highest risk of COVID-19. It is our priority to keep our older residents healthy and safe. And given the county's limited healthcare infrastructure, visitors who are feeling sick before they arrive should stay home. Visitors who get here and start to feel sick should go home immediately. The regular healthcare team can offer you continuity of care. And number four, this is an ever-changing and very serious health situation, and Cook County needs to be diligent in its response. Please be aware that additional health and travel restrictions may be imposed during this time. Last statement, for the most current information, including information about business hours and services related to Cook County's COVID-19 response, please visit cookcountycovid19.org. So at this time, then I think I will call on Attorney Hicken to make some comments from your point of view of being our county attorney and also having sent out some information on this as well. Attorney Hicken, could you comment, please? And then we'll see how we're going to get this worked out.
Sure. So I had made a couple of suggestions. The first suggestion I made was on paragraph 2. The first paragraph under number 2 indicates that all bars and restaurants are closed for sit-down services. That is true now. That may not be true beginning June 1st under the governor's order 2056. So because of that change that's coming up pretty quickly after this meeting, in the next couple of weeks, what I suggested is perhaps a change of language that says bars and restaurants are currently closed, and even when they reopen, will be serving a limited number of guests with restrictions in place. That was my suggestion for paragraph 2. The third paragraph, numbered 2, states that all public campgrounds are closed. I thought that that might be somewhat confusing because the BWCA and other campsites are open. So the language I first suggested was taken directly from the governor's order. Both private and public developed campgrounds remained closed to recreational camping. And then in response to something that Commissioner Bersheim brought up, I suggested some additional language, so lengthening that sentence to say both private and public developed campgrounds remained closed to recreational camping, comma, but dispersed and remote camping sites such as BWCA campsites are open for single household use only. So that just makes those statements more consistent with the governor's order. Those are my only suggested changes from the revised advisory that you read.
Thank you. I also referenced and have a concern just because I weighed on this. I'll mention it that the first statement, stay close to home is part of the new directive, but it's also, we're not talking about staying safe. And I think that's a new message. And I think that, the governor, at least in the Forest Service, have said, well, they're going to welcome people to come here. For groups under 10, I believe, is the statement. And I'm not advocating anything at all, but I really feel that this travel advisory has to be somewhat consistent with the intent of the governor's orders. And there is sort of almost not a contradictory nature there, but it's no longer stay at home, do not travel, it's stay safe. And so I'm wondering how that fits into it. And it's only a question. Because I think we're just getting contradictory messaging if we're not consistent. And I don't think we want to do that locally. I just don't think we do.
Mr. Chair, I think it may be debatable whether that is inconsistent with the governor's current orders, because the order does include the language that all unnecessary travel is still discouraged. The inconsistency with if the feds through the BWCA communications are communicating, come here, you're welcome to use this facilities. I don't know how to fix that inconsistency, but this is the commissioner's advisory, and you are welcome to include whatever language you agree upon.
Okay. Well, this is going to be hopefully not too laborious, but bear with me. And so I see, let's just go for questions, I guess, or comments generally. And then I see Commissioner Dukirk's hand up, so I'll call on her first. Just general comments on what's been presented so far. And hopefully someone's taking really good notes. I'll try to see how we can move forward. But Commissioner Dukirk, would you like to start off?
I would. Yeah. We all know what happened with our last travel advisory, and with the comments from you and Molly this morning about things being confusing and all of that. Here's what I feel. This is our travel advisory. The county would like all citizens to abide by Governor Walz's order and recommendations. Bam, that's it. Then we don't have contradictions, we don't have confusion, and we don't have to rewrite it when he changes the rules on June 1st. So, I like to make things simple, but I know you guys like to make things unique to us. So that's it.
Well, I think that's pretty profound as chair. That would really make this easy. Thank you. No, I think that was pretty profound. Okay, Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and so I like Commissioner Dukirk's suggestion. I also like Attorney Hickens' revision or suggested revisions, which I can see in the document on the sidebar there. It's very helpful. Thank you. And from what I can see, the biggest difference between our previous travel advisory and our current travel advisory is instead of stay home, it is stay safe. And the one thing I think is valuable with spelling things out, like we're doing in this updated advisory and the revision, is that it explicitly kind of tells what the situation is up here. And I know we're in a little bit of a bubble, and it's not how everything is if people are coming from Wisconsin or other states or other areas, even of the state. And so I think there is value in the tediousness of spelling all these things out. So whereas I would like to keep it simple, I'd like to try to really give a clear picture to visitors who are planning on coming here.
Okay, thank you. I think I just heard you say that you're more comfortable with a terminology such as stay safe rather than in number one.
Well, yeah, that what I was saying is that's the general takeaway from our previous advisory to the current proposed advisory is before it was stay home,
right.
And now this one it sounds more stay safe.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify your thoughts. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to clarify your thoughts that would be some kind of terminology you would want in there or not, or just intent.
Nope. Just yeah. That's the general feel of it. I think we explicitly said stay home, and this one is not explicitly saying that, and that stands out to me that it's not saying that. And so I was just pointing that out.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner DeShaw.
Now you are.
Okay. I agree with Heidi on that, but then I agree with Dave too. If people are coming from out of town up to the county here, you're coming from Minneapolis or wherever, where you can actually go in a grocery store and you get up here and you can't go in a grocery store. I think people need to know that. And there's just some things like that that need to get spelled out for people that are coming.
Okay. Commissioner Storley?
Thank you, Chairman. I think there are times when we can be abbreviated about things, but I think with this situation, we need to take a stand as a county. And this perhaps would be put on our county website as the basis for how we would encourage you to stay safe. And when you come to Cook County, this is what we ask you to consider. So I would say that we would need to take a stand and have this as a revision with Molly's suggestions about the services, campgrounds come June 1st. Maybe we have to look at it again. I don't know. But I think we need to spell it out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my thoughts are, this is going to require some work. And I'm just wondering if we can do this today, and if we could just maybe leave it as a statement that we're going to revise this and get someone to a small group to work on taking some of the input that we're getting, I think, from the commissioners, which I think has been pretty good, that we do have some language emphasis on stay safe, but also I really like the statement, and maybe it could be the first statement, Commissioner Dukirk's, that the travel advisory should be consistent with the governor's orders and changes that may follow, and try to make this in a general enough way so that we don't have to, we may have to address it or not in the future, but have some specific statements in there. Is Commissioner Dukirk's got your hand up? So I'm just trying to summarize that briefly, and the suggestion is, should we try to do this now? It's going to be very difficult, I think. We could spend hours on it, and I guess if that's the wish of the board, I'm willing to do it, but I think we could save a lot of time and have the understanding with the public that we're going to take this on at our next meeting next week, and try to get some good input on it. Maybe the leadership team could look at it, and then if anyone else wants to look at it, we'll be sending out drafts. Maybe a few of us could get together and work on it and send out things even before Monday. So Commissioner Dukirk, your reaction to that, I guess, or if any other comments you may have, please go ahead.
So what about a travel advisory? Cook County's new travel advisory is to stay safe. The paragraph I said, put that out, and then utilize our public information officer to get updates out instead of making it all part of the travel advisory. Not everyone goes to the county website when they come here. You know how to find it. We've got WTIP and social media where that's going out, and to take the full body of the travel advisory and just make that a continuous update when things change and put that out so people know what's going on.
Okay, other thoughts on going forward? From what I'm hearing you say is that we think we can do it today. Okay. Commissioner Starley, you think we need to have a work on this or try to do it today?
Well, Commissioner Dukirk's suggestion is good, as long as we get this out to the public. Yes, I know that people don't go to a county website, but where do they go? WTIP, Boreal, where can we get this out so that if they are, and they should be, concerned about coming into this county, could be the best way for them to find out what we ask of them to do. So I'm willing to say the statement, follow the governor's orders, and then these are the resources by which the guidelines are set forth by the county.
Which should be the EOC publications. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, all right. Commissioner DeShaw?
Okay,
I don't think they would be guidelines. I think they'd be recommendations on that. And I don't know if we should spend a whole lot of time on this, because after June 1st, we're gonna have to look at it again on June 2nd anyway, which is way.
So I wasn't clear on that. So do you think we should try to do it today or have someone work on it and do it next week? Try to approve it.
Get it done next week, we're gonna have to redo it again the following week, so.
If we don't get it done, okay. So you want to get it done today. All right. Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, I feel like we're all on the same page here,
Okay.
or a very similar page. So I don't think it'd be too difficult. And it is, I think it's basically what we have, I think is pretty good, adding Attorney Hickens' comments from that side note. And then just the beginning with stay safe and follow the governor, and then follow with the rest of it, and we're done. But I didn't see a whole lot of revision. I didn't see us asking for a whole lot of revisions.
Okay. So I'm hearing two different things. I believe that it was suggested, I heard it said that we should make a simple statement, not a simple, but a profound statement, I guess, about following the governor's directives, which may change, and emphasize stay safe. in travel. And then the other thing was, well, keep up to date by the, I heard some of the commissioners say, well, then the rest could be just keep up to date at our EOC publications or recommendations as a resource as well. And I'm hearing you, Commissioner Mills, saying, well, you would like to have these other statements in there that are in the proposed draft. So I think we have a little inconsistency there. Would someone help me with that? Or so I see that as different. Commissioner Dukert?
I hear the same thing, Myron. So again, my recommendation is the advisory that will go out is the travel advisory to stay safe and the paragraph, and then it's done. And we also have guidelines that will go out, and the guidelines can be updated when things change by the governor or in situations that we see here, so that the county board isn't constantly updating a travel advisory. The travel advisory is just the one statement, and then the guidelines are a separate.
Okay. So I guess we're going to move to trying to draft some language. From what I'm hearing, I know that Commissioner Mills is different on this a little bit, but I'm going to ask you, Commissioner Mills, do you have some serious concerns about what Commissioner Dukert suggested as a way to proceed on this? Or do you still want to have some more specific language?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Serious concerns is not accurate. Concern maybe. I think travel advisories are supposed to be updated. For instance, if you go visit a beach down in Florida and there's red tide, there's an advisory put out. That comes and goes. I think it's good to keep revisiting our travel advisory, and I think it's good to spell things out. So the reason I thought we were all on a very similar page is because I was thinking within our travel advisory, we could have what Commissioner Dukert first said, include that, as well as include Attorney Hickens' comments, as well as the proposed advisory, and then we'd be done. But, and I see a thumbs up from Commissioner Dukert. But does that answer your question, Mr. Chair?
I think so. So I didn't see him as consistent. That's all. I heard two things, that we would make a statement and then refer to the EOC guidelines or recommendations and not have a lot of the language. But I think Commissioner Dukert, you're changing your thinking on that we can work out some specific language.
I'm not changing my thinking or feelings, but I will concede to the rest of the board and have it all included.
Okay. Well, let's take this on. I hope you got a lot of time. As we did maybe with the short-term rental, unless there's some other suggestions, I would say that we're going to try to wordsmith an opening statement and use the draft as a guideline or a skeletal format and see if we can craft some statements. And Commissioner Mills, comments?
So in the proposed travel advisory, which was read, the only thing I would suggest is the modifications, the two modifications that Attorney Hicken pointed out, both in the first paragraph of number 2, as well as the third paragraph of number 2. Having those modifications made, I really like Commissioner Dukerk's suggestion about the first line is stay safe. That's very simple, straightforward, and to the point. And then the second paragraph just referencing following governor's orders, and then the rest of it is the advisory. So I don't know how much wordsmithing there is there.
Okay. Well, I could see it going on. It's a work in progress and we won't know until we get into it. But I have one other suggestion as board chair. Attorney Hicken, based upon what you're hearing from us, could you craft something and then we'll come back to this in our meeting? Go ahead.
I've got something crafted. Do you want to hear it?
Okay.
The only thing I'm uncertain of is with what Commissioner Mills just stated about where would we put the statement about people ought to abide by the governor's most recent orders? Is that in paragraph 1, like the introductory paragraph, or somewhere else?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
That came from Commissioner Dukert.
Okay. And then the stay safe language would be, would replace the stay close to home language in paragraph 1.
Right.
Okay. Would you like to hear what I suggested be added to that introductory paragraph?
Okay, let's go with it. And then I guess, do you want to read the entire thing and then we'll come back and take it piece by piece?
I can.
Okay. Why don't you read the entire revision that you have and then we'll come back and work on it statement by statement.
The introductory paragraph begins the same way with the sentence, "This is a revision to a travel advisory issued by the Cook County Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, March 24, 2020 in response to concerns surrounding the spread of COVID-19. New sentence in the same paragraph. The county board above all advises that all residents and visitors abide by the most recent executive orders issued by the governor and changes to state law." I added changes. We could say any changes to state law. I'm just going to skip to paragraph 1 because I didn't make any changes to paragraph 2 or to the second introductory paragraph. Paragraph 1 is changed in the following way. Due to high community transmission in certain areas of the state and across the nation, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, consistent with federal guidance and to protect our neighbors, has encouraged Minnesotans to stay safe and has strongly discouraged them from engaging in unnecessary travel. Paragraph 2, those travelers who choose to visit Cook County during the COVID-19 pandemic should be advised pursuant to the governor's orders that bars and restaurants are currently closed and even when they reopen will be serving a limited number of guests with restrictions in place. Second sentence of that paragraph remains unchanged. The second paragraph of item 2 remains unchanged. The third paragraph of item 2, although many lodging businesses have opened with plans and restrictions, others are choosing to remain closed. Both private and public developed campgrounds remain closed to recreational camping, but dispersed and remote camping sites, such as BWCA campsites, are open for single household use only. Visitors should plan accordingly. The rest of the revised advisory remains unchanged.
Okay. Oh.
Motion to approve.
Oh, wait. Thank you, but I want to make sure that we get input on this, but I
Point
guess
of
that
order, there's a
everyone will-
motion and we can have discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on it, but yeah, okay, so
Second.
second it, very good. Okay, this will keep it going. Thank you. Any discussion? We'll start with Commissioner DeShaw.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay. Commissioner Storley?
Very good. I support the revision.
Okay. Commissioner Mills?
Well, I don't have any discussion, but I would like to hear what you wanted to say, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. No, I just wanted, I think she made the motion and we'll follow it, but what I was gonna say before she interjected that was that I just felt we should get some general reaction to it and then entertain a motion. That's the way I've been proceeding on other issues. But if that's the point of order she wants to go, then this fits our past practice of not having clear guidelines of how we proceed with some of these issues. And so I'm open to that. But that's all I was going to say, is that I think it's just good to have general discussion and then talk about it and then go to the motion. And it's just a matter of style. Commissioner Dukert, comments?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm fine with it too. Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Starley? Commissioner Starley? Uh-oh. Guess we lost her. On the vote, Commissioner Mills? Oh, Commissioner Starley, did I hear an aye?
Yes, over.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mills?
This is Commissioner Mills. Aye, over.
Commissioner Dukert?
Aye, over.
Commissioner DeShaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Bershheim's aye over. Very good. We'll get that out. Thank you. We'll go on to the mask discussion. And I guess that was something that Commissioner Dukert wanted brought up because of, and it was mentioned at our Public Health and Human Services meeting this morning. So I'll just turn it over to you for how you'd like to see this addressed.
Mr. Chair, we have a request here in the room. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, let's make it 8, just to be consistent. We'll come back according to my computer at 11:20.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll go back to the order of the business to see if we got everyone with us. I guess I'll do a roll call. Oh, I see everyone, I believe. Commissioner Starley, are you with us?
I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, good. Well, we'll go on to the mask discussion. I guess I'll turn it over then to Commissioner Dukirk, who would like this as part of the agenda today. So I'll let you make your comments about how you would like to see this proceed.
All right, so along the lines of being simple, I have another epic statement. The county would like all citizens to abide by and respect the requests of businesses in Cook County.
Okay. We'll follow up then with thoughts about this in regarding a statement, or why don't you repeat that one more time?
And this doesn't necessarily need to go out. I know that we had a request from the public on this, and I know that there's at least one business in Cook County where this has been incredibly difficult for them. And it seems that there's a lot of emotions and feelings in the community, and it's being focused at masks as the easiest way to release our tensions and fears. And although I would like to have us as a county board be proactive and respond to citizens, I think sometimes our desire to be helpful and to promote good things comes off not so helpful. So, you know, if we want to send out a statement about mask wearing or anything like that, it would just be as simple. The county would like all citizens to abide by and respect the request of businesses in Cook County. And I also asked our sheriff to be part of this conversation, and he has been in on it, because I think there's some confusion also about what's enforceable, including on our travel advisory. And you know, sometimes when we make decisions as a board, we put a burden on our law enforcement, and we put a burden on our staff. We put a burden on Molly Hicken when people are asking questions and asking, you know, are the police going to come after us? Is the county attorney going to prosecute? And so I would just like to put out a statement that says, be nice. That would be great.
Okay, so let's go to Sheriff Eliason, and then I'll go back to the county commissioners. Sheriff Eliason, would you like to comment on this?
You know, as far as the enforceability of the masks go in private business, we cannot force people to wear masks when they visit a private business, but a private business can refuse service to anybody. And when they do refuse service and ask somebody to leave, if they refuse to leave, then we can be involved, whether it's a trespass or disorderly conduct or something like that.
Okay, yep. And that's my understanding too. I'll just put myself in the rotation here and before I go to the others, and just say that there was a public statement made through the EOC that I was quoted on in regards to masks. So we have a public statement, but only comes from, you know, the team that wrote it, which is our public information officer, Lisa Sorley, and others. So we do have a statement out there, and did that as the board chair, and working with our, you know, our emergency management people, as well as the public information officer, as well as the EOC incident co-commanders. So that is out there already. So, okay, so thoughts from others. Commissioner Starley?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I think we set an example. So first of all, we should be wearing our masks. Oh, sorry, there's my phone. Just a minute. Go to somebody else.
Okay, Commissioner DeShaw?
There you go.
I think with the people's emotions and whatnot are getting higher and higher, and with everything closed and there's enough stuff going on, I would just like to have the county stay out of it.
Okay, stay out of it. Okay. No statement. Commissioner Mills?
I'm not really clear. I think it's good. I think it's a good conversation, but I'm not really clear what Commissioner Dukirk is asking. If like, what are you asking? Sorry.
Committee, please repeat, Commissioner Dukert.
I'm not really asking for anything. You know, it was asked that we have the discussion and that we do something. I'm not sure if the city has taken action yet. I lean towards Commissioner DeShaw as we shouldn't do anything unless we want to ask people to be nice. I'd be all for sending out a let's be nice.
Okay, Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Dukirk. I was very pleased with the media release that you were quoted in, Mr. Chair, and I thought that was a good way to handle the topic, and I don't want to politicize it. I just want everyone to be safe, and I want to support our businesses who are also trying to operate in as safe a manner as possible. So I think that media release, I mean, maybe sufficient isn't the right word, but it was certainly great. And if we want to re-release it, I think that could be a good avenue. But just to emphasize that.
Okay. Go back to Commissioner Storley.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, we need to set an example. Okay, that's number one. And then as I'm hearing about businesses opening up around the state, many are saying, please wear a mask. If you don't have one on, I'll provide one here in the business itself. So I just think the message from us is, yes, Heidi, be nice, but it's also be aware that it isn't ourselves, it's other people too. So we just need to encourage what a business is asking of us, and in our own awareness of what this means to social distance and how we conduct ourselves.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. I think again, my comments are the Cook County Chamber is also making statements on this and encouraging it. And I believe that Visit Cook County has ordered thousands of masks for businesses to hand out. So I think it fits in line. Everything that I'm hearing is we're encouraging people to do this, to be respectful and kind to others, and send that message rather than to try to be on the enforcement side. And it is a business decision. And I think, as Sheriff Eliason said, that there are issues that can come up that can be followed up on. But that's sort of I feel this is something that we as a county really can encourage, but I don't know if we should just make an official statement on it. So if Commissioner Mills, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to point out too that the public comment regarding the face coverings was made before the media release. And so whereas the media release doesn't explicitly, I don't know, it just seemed like that was a way of addressing it. So
right.
Yeah.
What I guess I'm hearing from all of you is that we can just sort of let this go as an agenda item. We talked about it and we've made a statement about it, and there's no need to make any kind of formal statement on it now. Is that how you can just give me a thumbs up or good? Okay, so we will. Thank you. Then we'll go on to the administrator update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick updates. I sent out an email yesterday, which I believe I copied commissioners on, to all staff. Basically, just saying that we were going to stay the course We're in a new operational model with most people working remotely. We have procedures in place as people enter back into the field, and we're going to just keep doing that. It's working for our staff. I think our services are being delivered. It doesn't make sense to me to bring people back, and then once we have start having cases up here, to send them back home. That's actually makes them very unproductive. So we're going to kind of stay the course. We know that we're going to have to do some soft openings around courts and eventually with absentee ballots, and we're working on that. I've also told staff that I would expect they will continue to participate in meetings using electronic means like Zoom meetings or team meetings or conference calling. But if they feel like they need to go to a meeting or training or a conference out of town, that requires them to put forward a business case for that, what benefit it brings to the county and why they have to travel. And that has to be approved by me. So I think both from COVID, but also from the budget constraints that we need to adhere to right now, that's kind of what I've informed the staff. The Windows people for the courthouse are going to be returning this week, and discussed with their project manager what I expect from their staff in terms of wearing face coverings and keeping themselves and people they come in contact with at the courthouse safe. So we'll proceed with that project while the courthouse is mostly empty, and I think that that's hopefully will get done soon. And those are my updates for today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I think we're ready to go to an adjournment. But if someone else has something, raise your hand, and I see Commissioner DeKirk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. So, Rena, when this first started with the work at home and stuff, when staff went to training or meetings out of the area, some of them in certain departments were required to self-quarantine for 14 days. Are we doing that, or is it up to department heads? How is that going forward since the governor has lifted a lot of the restrictions? Just because I think there's confusion among staff and I'm confused.
This is Rena. We certainly, when I'm consulted, I've asked staff to stay at home or work from home for 2 weeks and do a self-quarantine. I am not sure how department heads are handling it. That's been my advice. So it's when I'm directly involved, yes, that's what's happening. That's certainly advisable for all of us when we feel like we might have been exposed or we've traveled somewhere and we come back. So, best practice.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn?
Just one,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. I just want to let our guest, Wong, who's going to talk about enterprise leasing, know that we're adjourning this meeting, but immediately starting the next one, because he's probably wondering why he wasn't allowed to speak yet.
Okay, so
Just-
I guess it's just a point of order before we do this. We're just going to stay on, right? We're not going to call
Yes,
back
no,
in.
This will just go from one
Right.
meeting ends and another starts.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, support second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Storley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mills,
Aye.
Commissioner Dukirk,
Aye.
Commissioner DeShaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Bershheim, aye. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting, and we will start immediately with committee of the whole session and go into our agenda. We had some minutes that were included in that, and I think we no longer we dealt with the face coverings. And so we'll go to the property tax penalty rates discussion. Brady Powers, are you with us, the auditor? And, oh, excuse me, we're gonna go to enterprise first. Thank you. We'll go with that presentation, and hopefully we'll have some more data to look at. So I'll
So-
turn it over to you, Rena, for your introduction and go forward.
So for our last couple of meetings over the last month, we have talked about option of looking at changing our courthouse fleet over to a leasing program through Enterprise. And Brady and myself and Brian Silence have sat through a couple of conversations with Wong, who's on with us today. And so I think this is something that I would like to get some direction from the commissioners on as we head into next year's budgeting season, as both a short-term way to cut our costs related to the fleet, but also as a long-term strategy, as well as give us a way without spending a lot of capital to update a very old and aging fleet. That's why he's here today. And I thought it would be helpful for you to ask him questions directly and specific questions about the program and about how the costs are calculated. So without any more introductions, I'm going to turn it over to Wong, and he'll be able to share his screens with you, I think. Thanks for being here, Wong. Thanks for waiting through all of that, by the way.
No, not a problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you, board members. I've been to over 20 of these, so I understand. I still don't like talking in them. So with that, we'll start. And if I may get permission, I'll share my screen.
Yes, thank you. Go right ahead. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you. I'll start off with just a quick intro on who I am. My name is Wong Nystrom, Asian with a Swedish twist. I thought it was Norwegian for years, but turns out Nystrom is Swedish. So there you go. I've been with Enterprise for over 9 years. I've been in the finance auto business for over 20. So this last stint has been extremely rewarding. And first and foremost, I wish and hope everyone's safe and health during this pandemic. And this is quite an unusual state to do a Zoom call. So I hope everyone is doing well. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. First off, this we'll fly through the presentation. I won't do a whole lot here because we'll get right to the analytics for you, but to give you a little bit of background information about Enterprise. We're the only vetted fleet services provider allowed into the Association of Minnesota Counties. We work with quite a few. I've done presentations for a lot of finance directors, county commissioners, county administrators. We are also part of the League of Minnesota Cities, the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, and recently we're partnering up with the MSP Airport as well. So they have a security team as well as the public works and facilities team that we work with. We'll jump right next to here. Just to, most people wanted to know how Enterprise Rent-A-Car we got our name. We actually started in the fleet division, and that was back in 1957. Our founding ownership is Jack Taylor, and it's named after the U.S. Navy fleet vessel. So that's where Enterprise got its name. Little military background. Enterprise Holdings consists of National, Alamo, and Enterprise, Car Share, and several other divisions. Worldwide, we help manage over 2 million vehicles. It's not to brag. It's showing you what a lot of our clients want is data-driven information to make strategic decisions when it comes to vehicles and fleets. This is all we do is help manage fleets. How well do we do it with experience? Well, with over $26 billion in revenue, we do a pretty good job. Once again, it's not to brag, it's showing you experience. Since 1957, still today, this is what we do. Some local government entities you probably know of. A lot of the listed here. Some of the bigger ones that you may not even know of, like Orange County or Kern County, They have north of 1,000 vehicles that we help manage. City of Chicago, Fort Worth, Detroit, thousands of vehicles there. My average client has 40 vehicles. So we handle small and big, it doesn't matter. If you have a fleet size that is over 20, we're allowed to work with you. A lot of the big knowns most people don't know is we work with a lot of cities that heard from counties, what the counties were doing. So we're growing a lot in that area. Nationwide, we have over 1,300 cities and counties and municipalities. We also work with a lot of nonprofit organizations in Minnesota, over 150 locations in Minnesota alone. Lutheran Social Services, Catholic Charities are also part of our partnerships. And last but not least, we are the RFP winner for Sourcewell, if any of you know Sourcewell or NJPA. So last year alone, Minnesota spent over $100 million with Sourcewell. Sourcewell is a government entity affiliate that does RFPs for staples, for copy machines, anything for purchasing through a national RFP program. Enterprise Fleet Services is the RFP winner. So we satisfied the competitive bid process that a lot of cities and counties have. Locally, there's 55 offices of enterprise fleet management. Locally here in Minnesota, we give millions of dollars back to the local economy. I work with all the way from up north of Roseau, Minnesota, all the way down to Fillmore County. Obviously, you know, I work with Sheriff Eliason and Sheriff side. We also work with Lake County. So all corners, we have a local presence because we care about the local communities. We have a presence virtually in the entire United States with over 6,500 locations of enterprise. So local relationships is extremely important to us. What do we do? We look at the total cost of ownership of running a vehicle. While an average pickup truck might cost $30,000, and that's what most people think about, is just, I got the state contract price, I'm just gonna buy, I'm gonna run it into the ground. What we've done is, with our data-driven information with over 200 vehicles, is look at the data. If you look at the fuel cost, scheduled maintenance like oil changes, tune-ups, to alternators, water pump, unscheduled repairs, downtime for having the older vehicles, insurance and administration, this $30,000 pickup truck can end up costing you over almost $80,000 over a 12-year period. And we know for a fact, basically based on the data, that we can operate a vehicle for much less than that. How we do that is look at the effective vehicle life cycle. When you buy a vehicle, obviously it depreciates over time and then goes down. The first several years is the most. At some point, the maintenance expense goes up on the vehicles, and then you lose fuel economy through fuel degradation. So there's an optimal time to replace a vehicle. Most sheriffs that we see are between this 4 to 7 year area of cycling a vehicle, because they've always been considered high priority vehicles that have to ensure safety and reliability into a fleet. That's why they're on a much faster cycle period. Our argument is that we believe every public official should have safe transportation regardless, if obviously the capital budget can manage it. And that's why a lot of them partner with enterprise, is to work with that capital budget problem, because the capital budget drives the replacement policy. Most other divisions within the county we see hold it for 7 to 10 years, and some from 10 to 15 or more, well beyond the expected healthy life cycle of a vehicle at the optimal time. So what we do is look at that data. What we talk about first of all is change of culture in thought process. It's hard. My grandpa, God He lived until 95 years old. He was a farmer, Des Moines, Iowa. And what he always told me is pay cash, Wong. That's the way you run your vehicles. I buy a vehicle, I'm going to run it forever. And I understand that, but times have changed a lot in the last decade in terms of vehicle pricing, effectiveness, and safety. So what we look at Enterprise is the buying power that government entities have. A typical works truck on a 3/4 ton pickup truck, MSRP is $44,000. Incentives around $3,500 and dealer discounts, you pay around $38,000 for that truck. As a government entity, though, we get to buy it off the state contract. As a government entity, you get a lot higher incentives. It's almost $10,000 difference in pricing. If you hang on to this pickup truck for, say, 10 years, so that makes it a 2010 vehicle, driving low miles, under 10,000 miles a year, which is typical for government entities, it's worth around $6,000 wholesale at a government auction. So your cash outlay is $23,769. You paid $7,000, $29,769. You got $6,000 back, so you spent $23,769. Does that make sense? That's your cash outlay. If you keep that truck for 5 years at the better cycling point and even drive a little bit more miles than 10, it's worth over $20,000. Your capital outlay is $95,669. We're going to round it to 10,000 for easy math and double it to 20,000. So for $20,000, you could have 2 trucks for almost $4,000 less than owning one. We're not talking about operating savings and maintenance and fuel yet either, which is majority of a cost of a vehicle. We're just talking about buying and selling at the right time for now. If you'd actually replace this truck after 2 years, it's about a break even. After 1 year, you actually made money. It's true in terms of if you bought a fleet of trucks and put it at the county courthouse and sell it in a year, you'd actually make money. Obviously, you're not in the car business. That's not what your goal is. And actually, you can't because you don't have a dealer's license, but we're just saying you could. The point of reference why we're not recommending 1 or 2 years is several reasons, though. Number one is probably public perception. People don't like brand new trucks. The government agency buying new trucks every year or two. We understand that. That's why we do recommend a 5-year timetable, more or less, at the longest term. The number one reason why Enterprise does its recommendation, though, is not only the financial impact, but safety. Vehicle design has changed dramatically over the last 10 years. When I do a lot of data analyses for a lot of cities and counties, over 40% of their fleet are over 10 years old. They're missing a lot of safety features from side impact and front impact and whiplash. We're on the 4th generation airbags and anti-lock brakes. All those safety features are being missed on vehicles if you run them too long, which what we see of in a lot of fleets. How does Enterprise help with delivering all these solutions? First off is you get a dedicated account team that help manages your fleet. First and foremost, the board and all the key department managers, you all make the final decisions. We do not execute unless it's upon your command. So you make all final decisions. What we do is give you the data and information and execute on it upon your approval and review. We help buy the vehicle, fund the vehicle, sell the vehicle, maintenance and fuel programs, customize aftermarket coordination if need be, license titles and renewals. Our fleet software technology tracks your fleet And then we have a cents per mile and a total cost of ownership analytics that we run by every single year. And we also have telematics. You don't need to do everything to work with us, just what fits your county. To skip around a little bit here. A lot of the bigger cities that I work with in counties, they all have a fleet manager full-time. And full-time fleet manager, average salary after benefits is around $80,000 or higher. About what a mechanic gets at $40 an hour plus benefits. But the fleet manager's responsibilities has to do with executing a fleet. So when I work with like City of Brooklyn Park or City of Bloomington that has hundreds of vehicles, they have a full-time fleet managers. Well, my average county, like I said, has around 40 vehicles. They don't have a full-time fleet manager, but if they did, there's a lot that goes into their job on an average 40-hour work week. What we do then is have an account team that does majority of the work for you. The next part that we'll talk about is going to be key so that the board understands what type of leasing you're hearing about, because the word itself, leasing, has a lot of negative connotations to it. People think of renting, they think of non-ownership abilities, they think of mileage issues or wear and tear issues. That's what you see on a lease on a TV, $399, come on down, right? And those are called closed-end leases. What Enterprise operates is called an open-end lease. It's structured as a finance to own, just like how you would go to a bank and finance a vehicle or take out a bond. The issue with that here is that you're paying for the entire vehicle under a finance, where leasing, we leave a residual, so you're financing a lot lower amount on a month-to-month and annual basis. With that, structured as a finance to own, there is no mileage restrictions, abnormal wear and tear. There's flexibility of term. You treat the vehicle as your own. As you know, like Sheriff Eliason, we put a lot of the aftermarket equipment into it and drill holes, cages, lights, computers, what have you. The vehicle's modified quite a bit. That's totally up to you. Because as a finance to own, eventually, if you want to continue to run the vehicle forever, you can. Just upon our recommendation, when the right cycling point that I talked about earlier, you can replace the vehicle. You don't have to. Like I said earlier, you make all the final decisions. But what we'll bring to the table, though, is the analytics behind it to recommend cycling at the proper time so you maximize resale and have the least amount of operating expenses and maintenance and fuel costs. It also gives you the huge advantage of safety in the vehicle. And leasing will give you the lowest total cost of ownership in cash outlay as well. Any questions thus far before I jump to the analytics?
Okay, just raise your hand. Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Wong. Looking at the services delivered slide, that circle. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the analytics and the telematics?
Sure. We run cents per mile and total cost analyses in our database, data warehouse, which is a client website that users that you tell us, whoever wants to, will have access with the user ID and password to get in on a web-based dashboard. So we house all the information in this dashboard for you on our website. So with the website, portion sample will be a dashboard for you that houses all that information, and we'll break it down to a cents per mile and a total cost, going back to that pie chart of breaking down all these different pies. And what the annual client review does is every year, we're going to review every single penny that you spent with us to make sure that we're on track to what I'm telling you and we're not just blowing smoke and it's not a gut feeling. It's data. It's data-driven information to show you exactly how your fleet on a cents per mile. So every year, usually for government accounts, it's in January because it's after the fiscal. We'll set up a Zoom call in this current climate and review the numbers. And then generally from early May to July is fleet planning season and budget season for a lot of my cities and counties. So we'll get together and go over what the fleet plan should be and what the budget is, and get all those in place so that you have a good sense of what your capital budget for vehicle acquisitions is that year. And obviously we'll never go over your budget because you're not going to sign for the orders. You'll know exactly what your expense is each year over year for budget planning season.
And you mentioned that all of those services aren't required. Is it all just kind of inclusive though, if we so choose?
It depends on what it is. So obviously what it looks at is if you want us to sell the vehicle for you, we charge a flat $400 fee to pick up the vehicle from Cook County and hand sell the vehicle. You can sell the vehicle yourself, but most prefer us to do it because we outpace the analytics on resale versus a government auction. Most government auctions run 8 to 10% sales fee. Then you got to have the drivers, pick it up and do all the work. And the return is very little versus for enterprise. Keep in mind, as Enterprise Rent-A-Car, we own 1 million vehicles of our own. So we know that hand selling the vehicle produces higher revenue. Your vehicles go into that pool where we hand sell as well. So then you're maximizing resale. And because it's a competitive bid process that we go through, it satisfies the competitive bid process that a lot of cities and counties have. The maintenance tracker program that we have, if you want us to track the maintenance, that's an additional fee, $6 a month per vehicle. The fuel program is free. The coordination is free. The license titles and renewals, when we register the vehicle, it's whatever the state charges. That the fleet software technology is free. The analytics is free. And the telematics, if you want to be able to track all the vehicles, there's different pricing plans for that device.
Yeah, so one of the things before we kind of got, well, maybe not before. One of the things we've been talking about was we've been approached by the city asking if we would be interested in participating in their kind of tracking of their fleet in regards to electric vehicle potential. And so I don't know if Enterprise deals in those, if that's appropriate, if it's not appropriate, if there's a way to analyze it, whether or not that'd be appropriate. And
yeah, if the county ran all electric vehicles, we would be able to do everything that we normally do. We lease Teslas now. I can do any vehicle that's out there up to a class 7 and down.
Yep, and so we'd be able to analyze whether or not that'd be appropriate for our area and climate and all that.
Yes, at that time we'd have to be partnered up already.
Yeah.
But then yes, we could do that. I'm starting a project with Olmsted County this fall on running electric vehicle motor pool numbers for them as well. I will say right now it's still extremely costly. We don't see the financial advantages yet, but we think in time it's gonna be the one.
Okay, So let's go to others, commissioners, for any questions or comments so far. Are you comfortable with that, Wayne?
Anything else before I
Mr.
jump into the analytics?
Oh.
Go ahead, Dave.
Commissioner Mills? Go ahead.
Thank you again. And so you had mentioned that any fleet of 20 vehicles or greater you can work with. So are there other limitations with numbers there? And are we going to be managing as a whole county, or law enforcement separately and the courthouse fleet separately? And I'm always looking for ways we can collaborate and make efficiencies. And I didn't know if by us participating, if there could be a potential partnership with the city if their fleet is too small. And could you just talk about those aspects, please?
Sure. County vehicles is separate from the sheriff, just because sheriffs like to know their own numbers for their fleet. It's managed by the same account team for visibility. And it's more of a preference than anything else to be able to do that. Most cities will not join with the county side though, however, because of more internal legal documents of financial burden on who's at risk. So generally cities and counties don't work together on a fleet program. Unless there's a joint powers agreement that you guys, internally approve of. It's not something that enterprise says, no, you can't. It's more the county's telling us, yeah, we're not going to take liability for what a city does for their vehicles.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Are you finished, Commissioner Mills?
I think so. Thank you.
Okay, you can come back again. Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Okay, thank you. We'll jump to the analytics.
Okay.
There's two spreadsheets that Rena sent out to you. One showing we essentially start over more or less with your fleet and do all the vehicles, all 14 vehicles that we'd recommend in one swoop. And then there's the phase-in program as well. So we did both just because they thought the appetite for the board going with all 14 may be too fast, which is fine. I will say that it makes no difference to enterprise. We want to earn your trust in your business, regardless of how you want to phase it in. So the approach that we're showing you here that we'll talk about is the updated Cook County fleet analysis, doing 6 vehicles in 2021, then 3, then 4, then 4. So kind of like a phase-in program instead of 14 new ones right off the bat. With that approach, this is what I was told that if there were 6 vehicles that were in dire need, right, to be replaced, these 6 would be the first ones. And there's the model year, there's the VIN, there is the mileage, which the average mileage then for the group is over 100,000 miles. You drive low miles, there's the year, make and model, year over here. And then what type of vehicle we recommend replacing it with. Is a Jeep Compass. As an example for an all-wheel drive SUV that I think would be very helpful up in the Cook County climate. If you were to buy these 6 vehicles yourself, you're going to spend an average about $150,000 hit to the capital budget, and that's just buying the vehicles. Your current expense and revenues right now, including maintenance and fuel, averages annually about 95,665 running the old vehicles, paying for maintenance and fuel, and then revenues from the department. So an average of 95,665. Does that make sense? That's what you're spending right now? To lease the 6 vehicles after resale, then after resale, the budget that would be needed from an billed by enterprise on a monthly basis would be $20,300. Here's your maintenance and your fuel expected as well. This is a conservative resale number based on your fleet sight unseen, kind of like a worst case scenario. We're being conservative. Obviously, if they're worth more when we sell them, fantastic, you get it. It's your fleet, it's your money. This is the total annual of lease payments is the 28.8. So there's the monthly payment estimated for the SUVs. So 28.8 minus the $8,500 is the 20,300 that is billed. Does that make sense?
That's monthly.
That is, no, that's
Oh,
annual. That's the
annual.
annual
Okay.
total.
Thank you.
That is annual for the whole year. The monthly is $2,400 a month.
Thank you. Yep.
The year after, we'd recommend these 3 go, and then after the year after that, these 4, and then eventually these 4. So to jump to the summary, is looking at it from an average budget. If you're spending around $95,665 a year to maintain your fleet, that includes the maintenance and fuel, and the vehicles are quite old, so every once in a while you get some resale dollars. Over the next 5 years, your budget expense without enterprise is around $474,000. Make sense? That's what your average spending would be. If I look at the lease payments over the next 5 years, that's the lease payment total. I'm going to jump up real quick here so everyone kind of sees how that plays out. Because here's year 1 in payments, the 28.8, right? There is payments for the first year fleet for the second year. This is the new payments for the 3 new vehicles, which is 45. Year 3, you got your payments from year 1, year 2, and year 3, and so on and so forth, where you're looking at for basically your entire fleet for perpetuity is roughly around $90,000. We haven't counted in resale yet, right? Off of that either. So when we add up the annual estimates and costs for lease payments, maintenance, and fuel expenses, less resale because we're going to find the optimal time to replace the vehicle, we're going to get a new budget average. So if you're spending $474,000 over the next 5 years to continue to run, in our opinion, not a safe fleet in terms of vehicle design, safety features, and a lot of people perhaps prefer to use their own vehicle for mileage reimbursements as well. You're incurring more costs as well because they don't want to drive the old vehicles. Versus if we lease them all and include all the maintenance, fuel, and resale, you'll spend $388,000 expected over the next 5 years. So that would leave a savings of $85,000 over the next 5 years, expensed by the county. Now, when we stretch it on to year 6, year 7, year 8, what is your average annual expense to run the fleet? Yours is the $94,000. $865 is the average. And to run it with enterprise, where all the vehicles would be cycled out within 4 to 5 years, the average annual cost thereafter is going to be around $87,598. So while we save you a good chunk of money in the beginning, obviously after all the vehicles are cycled out, it starts to level off where we're still saving you some money, but it's not $85,000, right? Because your entire fleet is under a rotation now of every 4 to 5 years, we're going to refresh the fleet. Here's what I've told a lot of board members before. What if I don't save you a dime, but I'm cost neutral? Would you still want to work with me? Think about that for a second, saying that I'm going to run a brand new fleet and rotate it out every 4 to 5 years for you, but I save you no money, but yet I'm going to give you the safest and healthiest fleet on a rotation for perpetuity. Would you still want to work with me? Now, most boards say, well, yeah, theoretically, we want safe vehicles, and if it's cost neutral, we'd consider it, but we want the savings too. So I understand. I've broken out year one savings is almost $41,000. Okay. The reason why the 5th year shows a loss is because I haven't included resale yet on the new vehicles that you did lease, these 6. When we do, that will go down. So when we pick up and sell these Jeep Compasses, all 6 of them, right? You'll get the equity when I sell the vehicle back. Now, the difference in modifications on what may happen over time is we estimated what fuel prices is, right? We don't think it'll stay this low in terms of forever. It will go up. So that may change it as well, but so does your expense. Does that make sense? And we know that maintenance costs certainly go up, but we have a fixed maintenance program that can lock in and guarantee you the maintenance rate as well for your fleet, where we handle all the maintenance on the vehicle, including repairs. Questions on the analysis at all?
I'll start one off, Long. So this is a plan where you go incrementally and replace, as you suggested. What have you figured out the costs or the savings if we just went to a lease on all our vehicles right away?
Here is the
What
one.
would be the difference?
Well, you don't save you save more when you do all the vehicles, because your vehicles are higher costs right now and operating them because they're old.
Right.
And the resale dollars as well. So when I ran the numbers for doing all of them, all 14, the savings is $130,000, because instead of doing 6, I'm selling the other 8 for higher dollar values,
Right.
Right? So we get more money in resale dollars. And then theoretically as well, the older your vehicle is, these 2010 and 11, that's still 8, 9, 7, 6-year-old vehicles. So your operating costs are higher. So when I can eliminate all that and get you new vehicles that virtually only do oil changes, right? First couple of years, all you're doing is oil changes, and pick up the resale dollars, I eliminate a lot of your operating expenses to extremely low, get you the best fuel economy and highest resale dollars. Therefore, the savings goes up if we do more vehicles. So this plan has us doing 14 new vehicles. You don't need any the year after. And then eventually in the third year, we'd recycle out the 2017 because they would be considered 5 years old.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I point one thing out? This is Brady.
Sure.
So when I looked at this before, in this plan, it isn't pointed out, but one thing you should know is that in the county's $90-some thousand annual cost, that includes what we're paying staff that drive their own vehicles and get the federal mileage in return. And that's averaged in the last couple of years about $32,000 a year. So in not putting that in the enterprise figures, then you have to assume that no one's using their own vehicles. So there's a change in operation that would have to happen for it to work the way it's showing right here.
Okay.
Just so you're aware of that.
Thank you. I think
Some
we talked about
cultural change, yeah. And the reason you don't see the fuel and maintenance expenses in those columns is that that's included in our average vehicle budget. When we charge our departments that mileage rate, that actually includes fuel and maintenance. And then the difference, then there's another 32,000 for what we pay ourselves to drive. So.
Thank you. Mr. Powers. It's a good point. And so if we did a phase in, let's say, then we would still have a tendency on part of staff wanting to use newer vehicles and therefore use their own, or because they think they're safer. So that argument can go both ways. Yeah. And then we would need to some kind of change in, policy maybe as well. But okay, so let's just open it up to others. Unless, Wang, do you have anything else to present before I just ask each commissioner if they want to comment? I think we'll do a roll call. Okay. Commissioner DeShaw, comments, questions on what's been presented so far and your thoughts?
I think it looks fine there, if it's going to be budgeted for. And I think I stated before when we talked about this that someone brought up about commissioners using them to go to meetings and whatnot there, and I basically stated then in some cases it would be, in other cases it wouldn't be. Like if you go to Minneapolis, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable driving a company vehicle to Minneapolis. That's one thing after the meeting. And is Pat ain't on the line, is he?
Pat, he's not on the line.
Okay, and I believe it seems to be working out for the sheriff's department from what I know, so I guess that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Starley?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I'm home, but I am looking at the budget here in vivid yellow and blue colors. So my question would be, before we've been driving Trailblazers, Escapes, Impalas, Tauruses, and now it's only Jeep Compasses. How did that decision come up?
I just looked at the lowest total cost of ownership that was a domestic brand right now. Each year with our cents per mile tool that board member Mills we talked about earlier on how does your technology work. We'll do a cents per mile analysis on many types of SUVs, and then you make the final decisions which one to pick.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I could, Commissioner Storley, this is Rena. We had made the comment to Wong that we thought four-wheel drive vehicles made sense up here. That a lot of times people don't want to drive sedans because they don't feel safe in the wintertime driving them. And so that was one thing. We also looked at the possibility of simply standardizing the fleet, having the same kind of vehicle, the same color, you know, they all are alike, basically. Just from a simplicity point of view.
Mhm.
So
Sure, yeah. And then when you talk about maintenance, how is that physically done? Somebody comes up here and takes it. Where are you located, by the way?
We're in Eagan, Minnesota.
Okay. So does somebody from Duluth come up here, or how does the maintenance actually happen?
We work with a lot of your local shops and vendors now that would handle it. You still have to bring the vehicle in, but then we guarantee you the monthly costs for the next 5 years. That makes it budgetable and inflation proof. It's a card-based system where you get a card, we leave it inside the glove box or something. It's not a credit card. And you take that into the local shop to show them that you're under the maintenance program. And then we repair and do everything necessary on the vehicle, from all the oil changes, tune-ups, to hoses, belts, wiper blades, anything that goes wrong with the repair for preventative, and basically all the way up to a blown engine. Even though that's uncommon these days for the newer vehicles, it's more water pump, alternator, little things like that.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
okay. Commissioner Duker?
Well, I'll just say I'm shocked that the Jeep Compass came up as the most fuel efficient and economic. You all know I'm a fanatic about the Jeep product and I love it, but the Jeep product is also notorious for being a POC. I won't swear on the meeting. So that's interesting information, but yeah, it would be nice to have the different charts, and thank you, Wong, for putting up the different vehicles and their expenses. And I just need to mail this around a little more, especially after Brady let us know that there's the 32,000 for mileage and where that is. But in general, I'm comfortable with moving over to a fleet and having our vehicles changed out more regularly. I think that we also have a need for more vehicles in the fleet. And if we're going to have safer, better vehicles, obviously then more staff are going to want to use it. So I think that there's a lot of components that are going to go into this and a lot more discussion that needs to happen with this. So thank you, Wong. This is very wonderful. And, Myron, your question to Pat, I think part of why it works for Pat is these are squad cars and they have to use them. So that's going to be a change in policy for county staff. That's it.
And thank you for that comment. To answer your question, Commissioner, the Jeep Compass for a domestic brand, that's not the lowest total cost small SUV. But like the Nissan Rogue is probably the best, but it's not a Ford, GM, or Chevy. It is made in the USA in Smyrna, Tennessee. However, we looked at domestic brands strategically as well, because there's more Jeep, Chrysler dealerships and Ford dealerships and GM dealerships out in your area than there is a Nissan dealership. So while there are lower total cost of ownership vehicles, it has to fit your county as well.
Okay. Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again, Wong. I think it's, I think we'll be moving in this direction. But we really need to figure out just the culture first, as far as using our own vehicles or not, because of various situations, but just geography and having someone drive to pick up a vehicle to drive back to go to a meeting, it can be pretty tricky. So I think it's important that we look at that and kind of take a step back. But yeah, the numbers speak for themselves, aside from the thing that Brady pointed out that kind of muddles my waters a little bit. So if we can revisit that aspect, it would be good. And pretty open to the vehicles. I don't have a particular make in mind or anything like that. So I just trust what the data says, and I appreciate that the model is data driven. And yeah, that's all.
And I think I agree with a lot of what's being said here. This is something we have to look at from a policy perspective. And I think that needs to be addressed a little bit internally. So I would hope that Interim Administrator Rogers will maybe have some kind of survey with staff or some kind of feedback, or what do you think is appropriate, and get back to us on what if. I feel that, you know, people have to come into work at the courthouse. We should encourage them to use the most cost-effective way of traveling. Unless, you know, they live far away and want to use their own vehicle. And we'll have to just look at that culture and see how we can navigate it. I know for commissioners, I myself am more comfortable using my own vehicle, just because I usually sometimes am staying, you know, overnight or something like that, sometimes when I'm traveling. And then how does that affect, you know, being someplace for 2 nights and with overnight kinds of situations using a county car? So, but I think commissioners are different than employees only in that we don't have an office. Our homes are our office, and we live in different areas, and I know I live in 2 different places. So I think if we could work out those things, but I seriously would consider looking at an option, and I myself so far would favor just doing the entire fleet. It seems to be the most cost effective is once we get these policy issues. So I guess I would ask for our interim administrator Rogers to comment on the question: is there some way that you can carry forward some kind of survey or kind of an investigation, not an investigation, but try and give us more feedback on some of the policy issues, and especially, you know, getting feedback from the staff on how, I think I would like their input as a commissioner on how they perceive this going forward. Commissioner Mills, go to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it might be helpful. I don't know, Wong, if you can provide information from other rural counties, just for comparables, because it seems like to some extent the savings comes based off of our usage, and you'll be tracking that, of course. But yeah, we are going to have to revisit policies, just like we've all been saying here, and yeah, it just gets tricky on that end of things. So if we have other rural counties, we can kind of look at to see how that's gone. And I know, Wong, you can't look at necessarily the county policies, but if Rena could visit, or, you know, find that, or through AMC, or I don't really know, but
I think I caught Lake County there, so that would be a discussion you could have with Matthew Huddleston, correct?
Yes, I think that's their sheriff's department, though. I don't know if it's their county.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm supposed to present to Lake County later on this summer for the county vehicles, but that's the sheriffs that we work with. Okay. A great example for more your size, Mille Lacs County with Pat Oman.
Okay.
He did a total motor pool addition because they were spending so much money on reimbursements that they switched to company vehicles a while back on their own, and didn't find controlling costs was sufficient, so they brought us in. So we've been managing their company motor pool, and so I would talk to Pat. He has lots of things to say on how it's going well. Obviously, we talk to a lot of other counties as well. here's one last thing. I totally agree with you that we have to run the numbers and analytics based on your total expenditures to be thorough, to continue to vet the program over time. My only recommendation is, whether with me or without me, I believe you have to replace these vehicles. So worst case, this is how we work with another county that had a really old fleet. They said, well, it's going to take time for us to vet to see if the enterprise program is working well or not. And so each year we're going to meet with enterprise and go over the data. But right now we need 10 cars badly that we don't have the money for, and we have to get vehicles. So at the very least, this is a great way to just get 6 highly needed vehicles for way under the capital budget. If you're spending 150,000, if you're spending 60,000, if you're spending 30,000, to spend $20,000 with enterprise to get 6 new vehicles is not a bad plan, regardless whether we do this long-term or not. What Rena talked about earlier was a short-term fix to get you started in the right direction for having safe vehicles. And if you want to run these vehicles after 5 years, as I said earlier, it's a finance to own, you can. You'd eventually pay them off and you'd own them and you can run them for 10 years if you disagree with me. But at the very least, you only spent $20,000 in year 1 and year 2, let's say, to get 6 brand new vehicles, which would cost you $150,000 without me. So it's a great way of trying us out while we track data and information for you each year, but knowing that you're not locked into this, but get 6 vehicles right away, because right now timing is everything. Without placing orders soon, the lag time in manufacturers not reopening quite yet, and the delay in orders for you to get new vehicles is going to be extremely a tight window. They're running, believe it or not, they're running out of vehicles. The dealerships have reached out to enterprise rent-a-car side saying, can we buy your vehicles? So that's the only food for thought. While we're doing analytics on continuing it, we know that you spend at least $20,000, and that's what it'll cost with me. Even if this number is too high, that makes you uncomfortable, get 6 new vehicles to start the partnership is all I'm recommending, and we can add more as we go, as we track data.
Good. Thank you. Good point. And I do understand that, I think maybe in the context, so we may want to get feedback from the commissioners at this time to see if that's maybe a way we can proceed initially until we work out the other dynamics. And then I heard Interim Administrator Rogers, I see your hand up, so go ahead and comment, please.
I think one other thing, in addition to getting safer cars and cutting our costs, is the standardization for budgeting that this would bring us. Right now, we put an amount out there, and we may go over that or significantly if a couple of vehicles die in a year and we suddenly have to buy a car or 2 or 3, or we have a big car repair. This gives us sort of a flat way to budget from year to year, and it becomes a known quantity, similar to what the highway department does with their replacement costs. It's also similar to what we do in the IT department, where we have now got a standardized replacement schedule, which has made that budget basically flat from year to year, even when we have big expenditures, because we're saving in a consistent way. So I think there's that benefit for it as well. It makes a much more predictable budget in the future.
Okay. So I would like to ask for some feedback then. You know, we have the policy issues going on and some of the other optics and so forth, but I guess as board chair, I'd like to just get a roll call feeling on, would it be acceptable to you to bring forward at a a meeting in the future to go ahead with the plan to replace the first 6. Does everyone understand that question? And getting sort of, see if we got some consensus on this?
Mr. Chair, can I just add a point?
Sure.
So, just because I've been here a long time, so we do have a consistent budgeting policy for our vehicles for a long, long time, because we budget the cents per mile that everyone uses. And so every department is basically budgeting what we did last year with some slight variation as the federal rate changes. And the only real other variation in that is how many miles that individuals drive their own cars. Although I see, looking back, that that's pretty flat in the last recent years. It's about 32,000 a year. But it really is a model that is designed to save up money by charging ourselves the full federal rate, which includes your purchase of the vehicle, the maintenance, the fuel, the tires, everything. That's what the federal rate does for you. And we probably have 100, and I didn't check it this morning, but there's over 100,000 in that county cash right now. If you had to buy 4 or 5 vehicles this year, you could, just from the cash. It would catch up to you. I mean, you certainly couldn't buy 6 out of that, or 12 or 14 or anything else, but it serves, you know, the way we've done it to now, it has been budgeted flat. Just need to make that point. That's all.
Sure. Okay, I'll go ahead and just, again, just sort of ask people whether we should pursue at a future meeting a decision to replace these 6. And then along with that, the understanding would be that we would look at the process of policy and optics and going forward, but it would be a way to just get our feet wet. Hate to use that terminology, but so I would just like a reaction to that. What are your thoughts, Commissioner Mills, on, is it clear to you what I'm asking?
Well, let me see. You're wondering if I am comfortable at a future meeting pursuing the idea of replacing the 6 with the fleet. And, you know, I think I am. One of the biggest factors for me is staff usage and staff culture. And I want to be respectful of that. I'm not saying that that's going to be the sole driver. I mean, certainly the financing and the accounting side seems to make sense. And so, you know, taxpayer dollars are going to be take higher priority, I'd say. But I do care about our staff, and so want their feedback. But I am comfortable pursuing at least these 6. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner DeShaw?
Yeah, I think we can move on with the first 6 here and try it anyway.
Okay. Commissioner Storley?
Thank you. Yes, I'd be willing to move on to discuss it, but I also want to take in consideration the policy, staff considerations, and have more discussion about the budget we already have. So I'm open to all of that. Thank you.
So I'm hearing you saying you're not quite sure if you want to go with the 6 or not, but you're willing to bring it forward.
Right.
To a discussion for decision. Okay, and I favor that as well. So I think at some point in time, if we could have this as a agenda item, either maybe that first week, and this is a question, doing it at our first regular school board, here we go again, the past regular commissioner meeting in June. Would that be sufficient to take a look at these 6 as a proposal for board decision? Anyone want to disagree with that?
Well, I didn't hear from Commissioner Dukirk, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. Thank you. Getting a long morning here. Commissioner
It
Dukirk,
is.
I apologize.
Yeah, I'm with you on the long meeting. I have another one in 20 minutes and I'm gonna leave
I
you.
do too, yeah.
I'm not comfortable moving ahead. You know, if
Okay.
the majority of you are and bring it to a meeting for discussion, but there are too many variables not answered. And my accounting brain isn't ready to move ahead. My gut is let's give it a shot and see with these 6 how it works. But I think we have a lot of other things we need to work on.
Okay. So I think having it brought forward as an agenda item at a regular county commissioner meeting in June. Is that okay with you, Administrator Rogers?
Sure, we'll put something together for the board to look at.
Very good. Well, thank you, Juan, so much for your time with us this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time. One last comment I will say that since I'm meeting with a lot of cities and counties in the next several weeks and months here, cash is king for on hand. They don't want to spend the reserve during this pandemic. They want to spend as little as possible. So it's fortunate if you do have $100,000 sitting there for vehicle replacement. Don't spend it all is what a lot of cities and counties are doing just during this pandemic. They're spending as little as possible. And that's what we're proposing for these 6 as well as some food for thought. Also know that we are along for the long term with you if we should partner up. We're going to run the numbers and the analytics year over year and make those recommendations to you as well. So I would highly recommend talking to Mille Lacs County since they went through something similar you did with the cents per mile and reimbursements and company car policies as well.
Thank you. That's a good point.
Thank you. Yeah, we will.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Move on to the 2020 property tax penalty rates discussion. And this is not a decision, but we'll turn it over to Auditor Powers, who could introduce this topic to us and give us some of the parameters of the decision that we should make on this going forward. So Auditor Powers, would you like to take up from here?
Mr. Chair. So we did put off the collecting of penalties until July 15th. And now we'll have to decide on what penalty rates we want to put into effect as of July 16th. And then every month thereafter. We've talked about what if we let the rates go where they are normally in July. You'd be looking at starting at a 5% penalty rate on July 16th, and then going to 6%, 7%, 8% in each of the following months. It would finally go to 10% in January if we followed the regular schedule. We've also talked about a moderate, let's say a moderate middle path where we said, what if we treat July 15th like it was May 15th? Then the penalty rate would start at 2%. On July 16th, it would go to 4% on August 1st, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 in each of the following months, and 10% in January. And that's following the rate schedules for, this is for homestead and seasonal. Also have to keep in mind, there's a non-homestead rate, which is higher. This would include, let's say, apartments, but largely it's going to be like your commercial properties, non-homestead. They start in May at 4%, and then they jump to 8%. In June, 9, 10, 11, 12. If we went to the schedule as it is now and said what would happen normally in July, those rates would be starting at 9% on July 15th and go to 10, 11, 12, and finally 14% in January. So the moderate level is to start with what would happen if we considered it like May 15th for both the homestead seasonal would start at 2, the non-homestead, including commercial, would start at 4, rather than those other numbers, which are almost twice as high. You could choose to go something even lower. Just some background, I tried to encourage Mako to do another survey on this as to what is everybody actually doing, because when I first reported on that, it was mostly what are we thinking of doing, but I didn't get a response yet, so I can't tell you that. I know in our MSIS counties, most I think did not take any action. Some did move to June 1st or to July 1st, but then they let the penalty rates go where they would normally go on those dates. So we would be taking a little different tack even to do what we've done and take this moderate route. We're probably one of the few that have taken that route. And just to give you some background on our collections, very, very good. At this point, we've collected 8,819,976 as of yesterday's entries. Last year, we collected a little bit less as of the same date, 8,600,000. Now this year, we're collecting a higher levy. Our levy's up overall around the county about 5.6%. So even when you adjust for a higher levy that we're collecting this year, we'd still be at about 97% of last year, comparing apples to apples, if that makes sense. So really very good. I was, even while I was advocating for this, I thought it could be, 75% or less of last year's collections at this time, given the dire look of the economy, but we're actually at 97% comparing apples to apples. So very good outlook so far. So all of the cities, the towns, the hospital, the school, they'll be very happy with their first period distribution. And I'm open for questions or comments.
Okay. So let's just go around and see if there's any questions or comments. Generally speaking, it looks like the two issues are, clearly, should we just continue as if the penalties would then be higher because we just started later, or we would just move the May 15th penalty schedule back to July, for May to July, correct?
Yeah, I think that's one is the status quo, the other is, I call it the moderate position.
And then the other option is whether you're gonna go less. Okay, so any questions? And then we'll just do a roll call on your thoughts on how to bring this forward. Okay, Commissioner Mills?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Brady. What is the actual dollar amount that's budgeted for penalties?
We budget around $40,000 per
Okay.
year, and it'll vary. That can vary a lot depending on the economics from one year to the next. A couple of years ago, it was probably 33. Last year, it was over 50,000. Yeah, hard to know, but somewhere in that vicinity. So we've probably lost, by not doing this, we've lost probably a good share of that, because a good share of that comes from the first half, but there's also a second half penalties also.
Well, and do you have any sense of when it comes to the penalties, if it's residential homestead or commercial?
No, I don't. We'd have to do a study on that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's okay.
especially- Well, you'll be making a decision until next Tuesday, and I'll see if we can. I'm not sure if we can pull anything up on that. Maybe we might be able to.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions. The comment I would make is that, well, I think I prefer the moderate route for sure to stay consistent with what we're trying to support the community. It seems like at this point, everyone's doing okay, but come next round is kind of when we're going to feel it, is my fear, but that's all. And
Yeah.
October.
And we knew we were going to lose some penalty. But the larger issue is the larger economy and what's the long-term effect on all of these businesses. This is pretty minor compared to what the long-term could be.
Okay, so I think you gave your feedback as well, that the moderate seems to make some sense, Commissioner Mills. Any other questions? And then I'll go to the rest of you for your thoughts on whether we should go moderate or go to the more accelerated one later in July. We'll go to Commissioner DeShaw.
Yeah, I think the moderate way would be the way to go. And I agree with you. The next round is going to be the interesting one to see what happens with some of those people.
Commissioner DeKirk,
I say go with the moderate route.
Commissioner Storley.
I'm with the moderates.
Okay, I am too. Very good. So we'll bring that back at our next week's meeting, and I believe that we covered our agenda today. Thank you so much. It's been a long one. I'll just like to mention that also at the next meeting, we'd like you to think about, we've had an inquiry from Gary Weirs on the administrative search about whether to continue this process in June for the search for the administrator, or should we delay it? And so we should make a decision at our next meeting, as well as to move it back another 3 months or whatever. And we can talk about all the issues. We did discuss this at the leadership team meeting yesterday, and there's some restraints and some issues with that, but please think about that. With that, I believe I'm going, unless there's any others things that want to be brought forward, I'm going to close the meeting, the committee of the whole. Thank you all again very much. Long morning. Have a good day.
Thank
Thank you.